Hey, what's going on, guys? Common Gamer here, bringing you the first video in what's pretty much a year now. Yeah, it's been a while since I did anything. In fact, I'm doing something completely different from what I've usually done in the past as well. Today I'm going to be doing some comic explaining on a few things that DC is doing right now. As the title suggests, mainly the Rebirth. And basically, I'm just going to be explaining what it is, what they're doing. I'm going to try to explain it in a way that someone who's never picked up a DC comic or hasn't picked one up since they did the New 52 can understand it and get a grasp of what's going on. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the DC Rebirth special that they did. It was a single issue, 80-page thing that kind of kicked off the whole thing that came out a couple weeks ago. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit. I'm going to try to make it quick. I recorded some narration for it the other day, and it being like 16 minutes long. Also, I turned the fan off in my room so that I could do this narration, and it is hot as crap in here, so I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible. So basically, the Rebirth is itself as a whole is you kind of have to understand what the New 52 was to understand why they're doing the Rebirth. And basically, the New 52 was back in 2011. DC decided they were going to reset all of their issues back at #1, and they were going to streamline their whole thing. They were going to get rid of the multiverse. Like for instance, there were several different Supermans and different universes. There were different. There were alternate universes and alternate timelines all over the place, and it just become really convoluted. And DC said, you know what, we're getting rid of all that. We're resetting our issues back at #1, and we're gonna go ahead and get rid of our multiverse as well. And the problem was when they did that, they got rid of a lot of stuff that people really liked. I think they succeeded in streamlining everything, but they may have gone a little bit overboard with it. And on a production end, as far as the comics go, that those kind of took a turn for the worse as well. And so a lot of fans were really irritated about that. One of the things a lot of people like to point out is the relationship between Green Arrow and Black Canary. That was taken away. They kind of erased that, and that really irritated a lot of people. They added in certain characters who a lot of people really didn't like. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But that's basically what the New 52 was streamlining of their universe and resetting back it. Basically, the point they chose was they reset the timeline back to where Superman had only been around for about 5 years. I think that was exactly the point they chose to reset to. And basically, the rebirth, the way I like to put it, on a real world level, is a giant apology for the New 52. It's especially if you read the Rebirth special, which we'll talk about in a couple minutes. It's basically they're resetting everything again. They're going back to issue #1 again, except for a select few of their comics. Um, and they're bringing back a lot of the stuff they got rid of. They're bringing back just I believe they're going to be bringing back the relationship between Green Arrow and Black Canary. That's just an example I like to pick on. They're bringing back a lot of stuff. They're resetting back at issue #1 again. They're changing their production teams again. And so that's basically what the Rebirth as a whole is that they're doing. They've set it up to where, for instance, if you've been reading Batman, they're doing a Batman Rebirth #1. It's just a single issue, one-off special. You can pick it up, read it. It picks up exactly where the New 52 left off, but if you pick up the Rebirth special, you'll get an idea of what's going on and where they're trying to take the story. For instance, the first story arc for the new Batman is going to be uh, the Calendar Man, and he's a really stupid villain. He sounds stupid, but from what I've seen so far, it looks like they've done some really cool stuff with him. They've really changed up him a bit. Um, so basically that's what the Rebirth is. As far as the Rebirth special itself goes, it I want to talk about that a little bit because it's kind of the way in which they do everything. Now, just before I get talking about it specifically, if you don't want to be spoiled, if you want to read the Rebirth special itself, go ahead and read it first. But I'm gonna try to keep spoilers to a minimum, anyways. But basically, the I'm gonna explain the ending of it. That's mainly what kicked me off on wanting to do this video in the first place, was explaining the ending of the Rebirth special, because unless you've read comics and or even just kind of have a general idea of comics, it'll be really confusing what the ending is supposed to mean or what it's supposed to imply. So the Rebirth special itself, I mentioned earlier that the Rebirth as a whole is like a giant apology for the New 52, and the special, the one-off issue that they made, it is almost like a commentary on the New 52. It's at one point they mention this deep dark entity that stole 10 years from the DC universe or from us. They're speaking in the first person because those characters live in the universe. And it there actually is an entity that's revealed at the end, or that's implied at the end, that I'll talk about. But as you read it, it's kind of hard not to imagine that they're kind of pointing a finger at you know DC as a whole when they say that, and at the New 52 as a whole. It's really interesting, but basically the story of it is it's Wally West, who, by the way, was a character they got rid of when they did the New 52. You know, um, if that's kind of another uh, piece of evidence to point to for the fact that they're kind of pointing a finger at the New 52. It centers on Wally West, and he has been trapped out of the timeline. If you know anything about the Flash, they have a lot to do with the timeline. That's who Wally West was at some point, was the Flash. They have a lot to do with timelines and things like that. So it's a perfect way to bring back the timeline that they got rid of, is by using the Flash. They used the Flash to get rid of it in the first place back in 2011. Now they're using the Flash again. But Wally West is going around, and it shows him outside of the timeline viewing things and saying, "Oh, things aren't right. Things are messed up." Again, that commentary. Things aren't right. Someone's taking this from us. I've got to get back and warn them. They think that it was just a flashpoint, a paradox in time that took it from us, but it's not. There's something out there that actually took it from us. And so he's going around to different DC characters trying to jump back in the timeline, and at one point he jumps in on Batman and is like, "Batman, or Bruce, do you remember me?" And Bruce has no clue who he is. Nobody does until at the end, he meets up with somebody. Like I said, I'm gonna try to keep spoilers to a minimum, but it it kind of shows you what's been going on in the DC universe. They do a really good job of setting everything up, and showing you what's been happening. It shows him in one scene or one panel I thought was really cool. And maybe overly romantic for some people, but I thought it was really cool the way they did it. Was Wally? It shows Wally giving commentary on the relationship between Green Arrow and Black Canary in specific. The book actually brings it up, and he talks about how they look at each other and have no clue who each other are, but then there's a panel where it shows them both awake in their beds at night looking out their windows, kind of actually in opposite directions. And he talks about how they still, there's something there that draws them to each other. It's really cool. There's a scene in which a character, I'm not going to name names again, trying to keep spoilers to a minimum, a character who was introduced in the New 52, who a lot of people really didn't care for, it shows her being vaporized. So I thought that was really interesting. They were really going in on they were very heavily going in on the finger pointing at New 52. But basically, what happened at the end, it kind of reveals who it was that vaporized her. If you see the way in which she's vaporized, you kind of, and comic books well enough, you kind of have an idea of what's going on. But basically, at the end, it shows Bruce Wayne as Batman in his Batcave, and he sees a glimmer down in the bottom he sees a glimmer down in the bottom of his cave, so he kind of rappels down there, and he digs a little rock away, and he finds a yellow pin with a smiley face and a drop of blood on it. Now, anybody that knows anything about comic history, or maybe even saw the movie that was made a few years ago, knows that that's I guess you could say, symbol or logo for the Watchmen. The Watchmen was a graphic novel published, I honestly couldn't even tell you, in the 80s or the 90s, I think. That was published by DC, but it was set entirely outside of the DC universe. It had nothing to do with the DC characters. And there's a character named Dr. Manhattan who, in a sense, kind of transcends humanity. and that's kind of what the book is about. And basically, I'm starting to run out of time. I wanted to keep this under 10 minutes. Basically, the book very heavily implies that it was Dr. Manhattan who stole the timeline away from them. That fits in with kind of the way they guided his character. I don't really know where they're going to take that. My understanding is that they don't plan on pursuing that within the rebirth, because the rebirth, I didn't mention this earlier when I was talking about it as a whole, it's going to be ending near the end of September. For this month, they're resetting just their main series, like Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Arrow. They're resetting some of their bigger ones. Green Arrow wasn't really one of their big ones, but they're resetting it this month. And then up through September, they're starting to reset other ones. I think in September they're going to be resetting, like Batman Beyond and Harley Quinn, both of which I collect and read, so I'm looking forward to those. Um, but they're resetting up until then, and I don't think they're going to be pursuing this Dr. Manhattan angle that they're going until the end of the summer, or maybe even further beyond in that. But that's basically what's happening in Rebirth right now. I just wanted to do a video, kind of explain everything, for anybody that may be wondering, for anybody that may be looking to get into comics now. That's something that always excites me whenever companies like DC and Marvel do things that are, um, really, when you want to put it bluntly, giant marketing attempts at bringing in new readers. I love that kind of stuff. I love it when people find, something that I'm interested in as being something that they're interested in. So I think it's really cool. I'm probably going to be talking about it over the next few months. You know, feel free to talk about it in the comments. Anything you guys have to say, any questions you have, I do my best to answer them. Anything I may be wrong about, anything that, I may have missed, just feel free to talk about it, like and share the video, and subscribe as well.